Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's Ultra Poly here, bringing you a deck profile on my Power Ancient Gear deck. Now, if you don't know what a Power Ancient Gear deck is, basically the goal is to finish your opponent as fast as possible. And yeah, so let's get into the deck profile. So, starting off, I have 3 copies of Ancient Gear Wyvern. Wyvern is your search, so you're going to be using him a lot. And the next thing I have is Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. I have 3 copies of it. He is a... well, first he deals your opponent 600 points of damage, but he's also a Ancient Gear... a polymerization for Ancient Gears, so always nice to add him to the hand. Next, I have 3 copies of Ancient Gear Box. Ancient Gear Box, like, let's say you use Wyvern to search for an Ancient Gear card, and you could search out Box, and then Box could search out a machine type monster with 500 attack or defense. Then we're gonna move on to Ancient Gear Gadget. I don't really use him a lot. Mostly, I know the effect's good on him, but the only thing I really use it for is fusion material. So that's kind of all he is to me, fusion material. Now I have 2 Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pounds. This is a really good card. It came out in Code of the Duelist, and basically what this guy does is it inflicts piercing up to 2 times per turn. It can attack if it destroyed a monster, but you gotta send a machine type monster from your hand to the grave. And when it's destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the grave, you can add 1 polymerization and 1 Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand. Well, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand. Next, I have Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. Again, I don't use him unless I absolutely have to. He's mostly fusion materials. Most of the monsters in my deck are there for fusion material. The next monster is I have 2 copies of Ancient Gear Golem. Basically fusion material. I got 1 Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragon, fusion material. Ancient Gear Beast, fusion material. Ancient Gear Knight, fusion material. Ancient Gear Soldier, fusion material. Ancient Gear, fusion material. And now we're gonna go into the 1 card that is not an Ancient Gear monster, Card D. Now, what this does is you contribute it and draw 2 cards, but it ends your turn. This is really good for getting those Ancient Gear cards in your hand, or just getting more cards in your hand. Now we're gonna move on to spells. I run 3 copies of Gear Town. Now, if you don't know what this does, you can use it with, like, you can MST it and, like, add a or special summon an ancient gear monster from your deck straight to the field. So like it's good for summoning Wyvern, and then you use Wyvern's effect to get Hunting Hound. And the next card I run is I run 2 copies of Ancient Gear Catapult. So like if you had Gear Town on the field, you could use Ancient Gear Catapult, pop Gear Town, and you could effectively special summon 2 Ancient Gear monsters from your deck. The good part about this card is you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring summoning conditions. So you could summon Ultimate Pound with this, you could summon Golem. Next, I run 2 copies of Ancient Gear Workshop. The reason why is so I can add Ancient Gear monsters from my graveyard to my hand. I run 1 Ancient Gear Fortress, mostly to pop with like Catapult, or so the monsters I'm trying to use for fusion materials don't get affected by card effects. Now, here is where the power Ancient Gear stuff comes in. I run 3 power bonds. Now, the reason for this is because power bond in an Ancient Gear deck is deadly. Really, really deadly. And the reason I run 3 is so my chances of getting it are better. I run 2 copies of Polymerization. One of them is a OG one, you know, from the anime. I run 1 Future Fusion. It's good for fusion summoning. Forbidden Chalice. I use this on my opponent's monsters because it negates their effect. So like, if there's an ABC Dragon Buster thing, I could use this, and for 1 turn my monsters are safe. Limiter removal to obviously double the attack points of my Ancient Gear monsters. Mystical Space Typhoon. You can't run an Ancient Gear deck without this to like pop your Gear Towns and whatnot. United We Stand, so I can power up my Ancient Gear monsters. Dark Hole to nuke the field. So like if there's something I don't want to deal with or whatever. Soul Charge to bring back my monsters for a potential fusion summon of like Howitzer or whatever. Magical Mallet in case things are going bad. Terraforming to dig out Gear Town. Pot of Duality in case if I'm in a pinch and like need a monster or whatever. Magical Hats. If you guys don't know, Magical Hats, you can use this with Gear Town, and then both of the Gear Towns will go off. It also protects your monster, so definitely run this in an Ancient Gear deck. I run Anti-Spell Fragrance. Now, you're probably wondering why I would run this. And this is basically to slow my opponent down. um, Ancient Gear Reborn to obviously bring back my Ancient Gear monsters. And the last two cards, 2 copies of Dark Bride, because it negates and destroys one of their spells and traps. Now we're going to move on to the extra deck. Now, the extra deck, there isn't really much to say, because pretty much my extra deck just has 3 monsters. So I run 3 copies of Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. This is your boss monster, and this is the monster you're going to be winning your duels with, a majority of them. Because what it does is it's a machine fusion effect that requires 4 Ancient Gear monsters. It must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. It is unaffected by spells and traps. Your opponent cannot activate their... Hold on. Okay, your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. This card can attack all your opponent's monsters once each. If this card attacks a defense position monster, it inflicts piercing. So basically, this thing is amazing, especially if you have Ancient Gear Fortress on the field, because it affects it. It's one of the few spell cards that actually has an effect. And on top of that, it can be power bombed. I run 1 Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Now, this card is actually kind of hard to get a hold of, because it's only been in 3 booster packs since 2008, and all of them were tournament packs. So you had to enter your locals to get this. Unless, of course, you bought it off of eBay or whatever. And basically, with this guy, you can power bond him, then limit or removal him. And that's a 17,600 attack point monster that deals piercing. So, yeah, definitely worth getting. And then the last monster I have is 3 copies of Ancient Gear Howitzer. Basically, Howitzer is unaffected by card effects, and you pretty much have to either kaiju over it, or you need to destroy it. And when it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, its effect lets you special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster, ignoring summoning conditions. Like, what I mostly do is go into Howitzer, then Ultimate Pound, and then if they manage to get over Ultimate Pound that turn, I can add 1 Polymerization and an Ancient Gear card that I use to fusion summon this from my graveyard to my hand, or if there's anything better, like Wyvern. So that is my Ancient Gear deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you for the next video.